right, thank you for joining us today. This is part of our new career exploration series, and if you could start off by introducing yourself by giving us your name, what classes you teach at Lake Sumter, how long you've been here, kind of what your current job position entails, responsibilities, all that good stuff.
Okay, yeah, great. Thank you for having me. My name's Chris Leibner. I'm an assistant professor here at Lake Sumter State College. I teach for the Natural Sciences Department. Usually I teach anatomy and physiology. I'll teach biology, introduction to life science. I've also taught microbiology in the past. Sometimes I'll teach an epidemiology course. So a lot of the different life science classes. I've been here for about 9 years, I think, now. I started as a tutor in the Learning Center and then as an adjunct and just kind of kept accruing more classes, and now finally I've been here full-time for about 9 years. Job responsibilities, my job is to teach the classes that I'm assigned and hold office hours and do committee work and things like that. That's kind of my job description. I sort of have my own personal feelings about what my job position is, and I really like to try to work to get students interested in the sciences and to show them the potential to make a rewarding career out of it and show them how they can use their knowledge in science to make the world a better place.
Okay, so describe your career path. So talk about where you went to college, what degree program you were pursuing, just how you came about making that decision on what to study, and were you involved in any kind of activities related to that program, etc. So.
Okay, sure. My career path is kind of a winding road to end up here, but I grew up in the area. I'm from Tavares, and I've always just had an interest and a love for all things nature and biology. I was always outside on the lakes, in the woods. I had a uncle who was a biology teacher who was very influential to me wanting to do something in biology. And so I went to the University of Central Florida for my undergrad, where I studied micro and molecular biology, which is about like bacteria and viruses and things like that. That led me to an interest in working in the medical field, so I went to medical school for a year. When I was in medical school, I learned about the field that I actually kind of work in, which is public health. And I went to Nova Southeastern University, where as a medical student I could also study public health. I could work on a master's in public health kind of on the side. And so I sort of dropped the medical side of things and followed up with the public health instead. While I was in college, the extracurricular activities that I did, I was a member of all of the different clubs, AMSA, PPMS, all of that. A lot of different experiential things that my professors offered. I did a lot of those kinds of things. Internships. I had internships while I was in between my undergrad and graduate school, working at a hospital, and also for health departments.
Okay. So were there any challenges that you faced while you were in college, and were there major things that you discovered about yourself, or perhaps about the path you were on as far as medicine that caused you to really rethink and switch paths? Like, how did you come to that decision to go from medicine to public health?
Challenges, I think my biggest challenge was just sort of being young and not really knowing what I wanted to do. I was the first in my immediate family to go to college, so me and my parents kind of trying to navigate this whole system was interesting, but we figured that out without too much trouble. When I was in college, I don't think I declared an actual major until I was probably a junior, and I was running out of electives to pick. So I settled on micromolecular biology finally, kind of declared that as my major. And then when I was in medical school, my school was really great in the sense that from our first week of classes, they actually had us working with doctors in their practice, getting some of the hands-on stuff right away. That's kind of when I realized that I just wasn't as into the day-to-day stuff that I thought I would be. A lot of it just kind of felt very routine to me. I was also a little bit more squeamish than I thought I would be about certain things, but you don't know about until you're actually doing it. And so that's kind of when I decided that maybe I was in the wrong career path for me. But luckily, I was also studying public health at the time, and that was something that was new to me, and I really saw a lot of potential in that field, and I just thought that there was something there for me, so I kind of followed up that way instead.
So talk about what that graduate work was like in studying public health. What were those classes? Was there a lot of math? Was it mostly science? Was it, general health systems? Talk about what those classes are like.
Public health is kind of a different field because it's such a diverse field. So once you decide to major in it, you'll find that there are a lot of different electives and pathways that you can take into it. Generally, you'll do a lot of the sciencey things, so scientific method, courses in statistics, courses in biostatistics, because a lot of it is very research-based. But then you get to kind of decide, do you want to go into the disease outbreak epidemiology side of things? Do you want to go into more of the counseling side of things? Do you want to go into more of the public policy side of things? And so from there, you really have a lot of diversity with what you want to study. And that's kind of what I liked about the field, is that you don't have to be an expert in one thing, but you sort of have to know a little bit about a lot of things, and you get to dabble in a lot of different things.
So describe your first job in public health after college. Kind of, how did you go about finding that position? What kind of industry was it? What did your work entail? That type of thing.
My first job in public health was probably more of a volunteer experience. In between my undergrad and graduate school, I would do medical mission work through the hospital that I worked with. And so I would work with doctors and nurses on trips to underserved populations or places that needed help. So my first trip was to Waveland, Mississippi, right after Hurricane Katrina came through, and we just set up I think it was a water and food distribution center. We did some counseling for people that were struggling, some emergency medical stuff, and then from there we did trips to Central and South America all over the place. And I've been doing that now for about 15 or 16 years. And so that's given me lots of great experience. And then I interned with Orange County Health Department and Lake County Health Department as well.
Okay. So then, was your first actual professional experience with a health department, or?
Yeah, my first actual position was actually with Healthy Start and Mom Care, which are programs for young mothers and mothers-to-be, doing a lot of education, directing people to services that they might need, trying to develop a network of services around the mother to make sure that they have a healthy child and they have access to everything they need to have a safe and healthy birth and child after that.
So that was a government position?
Yes, yeah,
okay.
That was with the health department.
Okay. So what did you find the most and least rewarding aspects of working in public health, like directly working in public health?
I think the most rewarding aspect for me would be the fact that I was able to get a lot of training in the sciencey stuff, and I know how to do the research and I understand the complicated concepts, but really where the rubber meets the road is it's my job to take all this complex information and make it useful. So I have to encapsulate it into a way that I can develop a program or an initiative that will address some type of a need in the community or teach people something important. If I am studying a foodborne illness, and I have to do an inspection at a restaurant or something, it's one thing for me to kind of understand how the bacteria works and how it spreads and all of that, but if I can, teach somebody safer food handling practices and actually prevent illness from spreading, to me that's the rewarding part. Least rewarding aspects, I honestly can't think of a not rewarding aspect of the field of public health.
Okay. Now, a lot of students think they want to go into medicine, and why do you think your medical school you initially went to had public health as an option? How does those two kind of fit together? Like, what would be the difference?
One of the reasons why I picked the school that I did was because I had a little bit of insight about public health from my medical mission trips, and you go to places that just have no infrastructure for any sort of healthcare or public health, and you kind of see what those communities are like without that, access to clean water, access to healthy food, even safe environments, safe roads, things like that. So I kind of had an insight about it from that. And then my school, Nova Southeastern University, was an osteopathic medical school. And so they focus a little bit more on the holistic side of medicine, and also they really try to put out family practice physicians, which was what I was attracted to doing. But along with the family practice, they also have a big emphasis on public health, which is part of the mission of osteopathy. So,
okay. Was there someone or some place you turned to for mentorship and advice to stay current of trends, or to learn more about the career field, or to make sure that, what you're studying and developing programs was the most up-to-date information?
Yeah, definitely. With the medical missions that I've done, working with all the doctors and the nurses and the hospital presidents that would come along on these trips, you definitely learn a lot from them. Even the locals, you understand the needs of people the more you work with different groups of people. Staying current, I work a lot with our local health departments. I still collaborate on things. They come to the college as guest speakers quite often and speak to my students. I help them with the research projects and things like that. There are some accrediting bodies that I'm also that I work with. I do certain trainings and things to maintain accreditation in my field too.
So what kind of skills and experience do you feel it really takes to go into public health, and what would you recommend for someone who wants to pursue this career, especially thinking about personality traits? Is it something good if you're very extroverted, or if you're more introverted? Is it someone who likes more investigative and liking to do research, or is it more, outward, working with people? Kind of talk about those kinds of skills.
Yeah. Well, really, the cool thing about public health is there's a niche for all of those different personality traits in there. You have to have a good science background, because no matter what you're doing, you have to kind of understand the science behind what you're doing. Everything has to be evidence-based. So, there's a lot of research involved. But then if you are an introvert, maybe you'll be more on the science-y research side of things, doing the statistics and that kind of stuff. If you're the extrovert, then you are the public health educator, you are the community liaisons, things like that. So if you are interested in public health, I think it's very good for you to kind of be honest with yourself and kind of realize what is it that you're good at, what do you like to do, and then from there you can follow that up and find a role that's very fitting for you.
Okay. And any advice you wish you had been given during undergraduate years when you were looking to go into a degree program, and even when you start to, job search after graduating, what advice would you give to students that you wish maybe you had gotten?
I think one of the most useful things I could suggest would be to be creative, to find opportunities for yourself, to give yourself as much experience as you can, and to also, when you're trying to land a job or find an internship, you want to have your resume kind of stand out a little bit more. So definitely do all the typical things, join the societies, do the clubs, but also kind of look around for things that other people might not think of. Like for me, it just happened to be those medical mission trips that really opened up a lot of doors for me, made a lot of connections that way, and just kind of got a lot of insight. But if you can be creative and do some due diligence too. You know, read about the field, read the publications, and the more you can learn about it ahead of time, I think will help you sort of create a more direct pathway than what I had.
Okay. Now, what can a Lake Sumter student who's thinking about public health, are there any opportunities or advice you would give them particularly? Anything that you do in particular with students, or, you know, if opportunities to work with you, is there any of those things that you could suggest specifically for our Lake Sumter students who may think about this career path?
Yeah, in particular, as a science teacher here, I see a lot of the pre-nursing students. And so one thing I just try to remind them is that, you know, as a nurse, you are really on the front lines of public health. You're going to be the ones that are dealing directly, initially, with patients. You might be the first ones to pick up on an outbreak of a certain disease going on because they're going to come into your emergency room. When you are working with patients and you're the one in the room with the scrubs, the people are going to be asking you the questions, you know, and so now you're the health educator. And so I try to just emphasize to students that even if you are a nurse or a doctor, you still work in the field of public health. And if you can kind of keep that perspective and learn about the field and what it entails, and you kind of have that as the background to what else you do, I think that gives you a lot of a much bigger perspective on what you're doing. As far as opportunities go, yeah, definitely. We have great collaboration with our local health departments. A couple of community health educators in particular are always willing to come and speak to students. They even work with some of the local high schools, and they teach a curriculum on public health. And yeah, we always have events going on. And so I'll advertise those on my faculty website. If students have any questions, they're always welcome to contact me.
All right. Well, this has been a great learning experience about public health, and I'm sure students wanting to learn more can contact you and go to your faculty webpage. But thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.